After an 18-month absence, Bray Wyatt is back in WWE. One of the most uniquely creative superstars in wrestling history, the Eater of Worlds has nonetheless been a polarizing figure due to his involvement in both stupendously good and laughably bad matches, moments, and storylines. His return has certainly been a boost for a resurgent WWE, however, and the hope is that Wyatt will be involved in more good than bad now that he's been given something of a fresh start working under a new regime. Because when he's good, he's really good. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 best Bray Wyatt WWE moments.
But before we start, today's video is sponsored by NordVPN. We at Cultaholic truly believe that Nord is the best service of its kind. Firstly, it's super easy to use. Connect with one click or enable auto connect for zero-click protection. There are over 5,300 servers in 60 different countries, which is a hell of a lot. It has amazing speed, confirmed by the speed tests. NordVPN is the fastest service out there, and it's on every major platform. So here's how I use Nord. Obviously, I live in the United Kingdom, but with NordVPN, I can set myself to be anywhere in the world virtually and access content from those regions. So this means, if I fancied it, I could set myself to be somewhere in the world virtually and sign up for a certain sports entertainment network for a fraction of the price. Or if I happen to live in the United States, I could sign up for that sports entertainment network, even though it doesn't properly exist as it did in the United States before. Oh, and it works on lots of other on-demand services too. Nord costs the equivalent of a cup of fancy coffee every month, a small price to pay for complete peace of mind when it comes to cybersecurity and access to a whole range of entertaining content. Also, there's even a 30-day money-back guarantee, so if Nord isn't for you, you can get your money back, no bother at all. Grab your exclusive NordVPN deal by going to nordvpn.com/Cultaholic, a link's in the description below, to get a huge discount off your NordVPN plan, plus an additional 4 months for free. And remember, it's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Thanks for watching, enjoy the video.
Number 10, Bray Wyatt returns. Let's start with Bray's return itself, which was the culmination of much hype, speculation, and an inventive, interactive campaign. With Triple H taking over the creative reins from a retiring Vince McMahon, we immediately started to see some of the game's old favorites return to the fold, whether they were rehired or simply given renewed pushes. Encouraged to follow the mystery of the White Rabbit, viewers eagerly tuned in to the Extreme Rules pay-per-view, where it was hinted that Wyatt would re-emerge. With the show ostensibly going off the air, the lights went out and the weirdness began in earnest. With a recording of Bray singing "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands" playing over the arena's sound system, one by one, lifelike versions of the unsettling characters from the FIREFLY FUNHOUSE were spotted at various places in the crowd. Then, after a little more hoopla, Wyatt appeared from the remnants of the FIREFLY FUNHOUSE set, taking off a brand new mask and blowing out a lantern as the fans went bonkers. Only a character like Bray Wyatt could get away with this sort of extravagant production, but it fit him to a T and got this latest run off to a memorable start. Number 9, beating CENA at Extreme Rules. Bray's first major test as a singles wrestler on the main roster was John Cena. Though Wyatt, as well as Luke Harper and Eric Rowan, had built up considerable momentum in their relatively short time on main, a program with the face that runs the place was an altogether different beast. Some were critical of Super Cena's WrestleMania 30 victory over the Backwoods Dweller, but defeat at the Showcase of the Immortals wasn't the end of the line for the Eater of Worlds, because he got another crack at Big Match John at Extreme Rules. Locked inside a steel cage, Wyatt and Cena were having themselves a hell of a fight, with Cena continually fending off interference of the rest of the Wyatt family members. It wasn't Harper or Rowan that he needed to worry about, however. A small child, who would be ordinarily kitted out in one of Cena's Neon Nightmare t-shirts, showed up and prevented him from exiting the cage door by freaking him out with a demonic rendition of "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands." The distraction was enough to allow Bray to hit Sister Abigail and secure a key victory. Number 8, the Firefly Funhouse match. 6 years after they first clashed, Bray and CENA reignited their rivalry on the road to WrestleMania 36. By this point, Wyatt had transformed into the Fiend, and John was no longer WWE's marathon man, but on a part-time schedule and used only for special events. When COVID hit, WWE were forced to innovate and came up with a Firefly Funhouse match for CENA vs Wyatt on the oddest, grandest stage of them all. More in keeping with performance art than traditional professional wrestling, the Funhouse was unlike anything WWE had done before. A time-hopping head trip with nary a wrestling move in sight, the match saw Bray taunt CENA, who morphed into prior versions of himself. They even did an homage to their previous feud and imagined John Cena becoming a member of the New World Order. It was wild and wacky, and while it wasn't for everyone, it was certainly different and lingered long in the memory. There were a lot of so-called cinematic matches during the pandemic era, but Cena and Bray's mind-bending jaunt through the Performance Center takes some topping. Number 7, winning the tag titles with Orton. Though Bray debuted on WWE's main roster in the summer of 2013, it took him over 3 years to win his first piece of WWE Gold, or WWE Blue and Silver anyway. And it wouldn't be with Rowan or Harper either, but temporary honorary Wyatt family member Randy Orton. The new face of Fear and the Viper joined forces in late 2016 and took on inaugural SmackDown Tag Team Champions Heath Slater and Rhino at TLC. Kicking off the show, the match itself was really nothing to write home about, lasting a shade under 6 minutes as it did. But as a moment, it was a big one, and an important one for the career of Wyatt, who provided the distraction that allowed Orton to nail an RKO and bag the belts. The Orton-Bray saga would go completely off the rails in the months that followed, but it was compelling stuff initially, with this being one of the highlights. Who would have thought that 4 years later, Randy would burn the Fiend to a crisp on the very same show? Boys will be boys, eh? Number 6, Firefly Inferno. Speaking of the extra crispy remains of the Fiend, so, Firefly Inferno then. Not everyone loved this, many hated it, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure what my own thoughts on it are. The pandemic was still in full swing when Bray's alter ego clashed with Randy Orton at TLC 2020 in what was basically an Inferno match, i.e. the first person to set their opponent on fire wins. WWE attempted many wacky things during their extended residency in an empty performance center, but none were as genuinely mad as what they did here. As an actual match, it's not exactly giving Flair vs. Steamboat any sleepless nights, but it was a visually stunning spectacle and features one of the most unforgettable WWE pay-per-view endings ever. Orton won the match by backing the Fiend into the flames, only for Wyatt to continue his pursuit before eating an RKO. The Viper then contemplated his next move before pouring gasoline on the Fiend's lifeless body like tanning lotion in a diva's handbag, allegedly, and lighting a match. Just completely mental on every level, enjoyable whether you were genuinely aghast or bursting at the seams from suppressed laughter. Number 5, besting BRYAN at the Rumble. The first time that Bray Wyatt really got to shine was during his feud with Daniel Bryan in late 2013/early 2014. Bray had seemingly recruited the American Dragon into the Wyatt family fold, only for the bearded wonder to famously rip off his boiler suit and break free from their clutches. Well, the Eater of Worlds wasn't going to let that one sit, and the big grudge match was booked for the 2014 Royal Rumble. Opening the show in style, the two men had an exceptional back-and-forth contest that, to this day, remains one of Wyatt's best. Bryan was riding a serious wave of fan support at the time, and the Bray Wyatt character was still very new, giving the match a lot of crowd heat and a fresh feel. As for the result, it really could have gone either way, and that would have been just fine, but Bray got the nod and put the bearded wonder away after a Sister Abigail into the ringside barricade, followed by another in the ring. Stealing the show in the opener and getting a major singles W, not a bad night for the man of 1,000 truths, all things considered. Number 4, The Fiend's debut. While his tag team with Broken Matt Hardy, the Deleters of Worlds, was a fine mid-card distraction, it was clear that Bray could do with a direction change sooner rather than later. Once the team ran its course, Wyatt took a little vacation while vignettes began airing, offering a peek into Bray's Firefly Funhouse. Initially appearing as a Mr. Rogers type host, the vignettes took a very dark turn as the Fiend was introduced to the world. After playing for weeks and weeks, fans became invested in seeing how it would all shake out in the ring as Wyatt targeted Finn Balor and was booked against the first ever Universal Champion at SummerSlam 2019. The Fiend's proper in-ring debut would have to be handled perfectly after such a long and careful build, and thankfully WWE, as well as Bray and Balor, got it spot on. The entrance was hair-raising and the Fiend's appearance was genuinely disconcerting, like a horror movie villain come to life. He made quick work of his very generous opponent too, setting the right tone from the off. Number 3, Supremacy over the Shield. The Wyatt family were lucky enough to arrive in WWE at the same time that another awesome faction, the Shield, were establishing their dominance. Hitting that sweet spot right as the Wyatts were starting to really get over, and not too terribly long before the Hounds of Justice imploded, WWE booked the big showdown between the two warring stables at 2014's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view. Watching it all unfold, you could immediately tell that this was something truly special. The crowd were electric from before the opening bell rang and maintained their enthusiasm for the duration of the near 25-minute barn burner. Probably shouldn't mention burning barns when speaking about the Wyatts actually, because, well, you know. In any event, the six-man was a real chaotic scrap that featured a little bit of everything for everyone and allowed all the participants to shine, especially Bray though, who scored the decisive pin on Roman Reigns. Amazingly, WWE booked the match to end pretty much the same way in the main event of Raw a few months later, with Bray again pinning the big dog to establish his trio's supremacy. Number 2, Bray's Elimination Chamber WWE title win. The Elimination Chamber event has to hold a special place in Bray Wyatt's heart. 3 years after he, Harper, and Rowan beat Rollins, Reigns, and Ambrose in an instant classic, the Eater of Worlds received a shot at the WWE title in the show's eponymous match. John Cena was defending against Wyatt, AJ Styles, Dean Ambrose, The Miz, and Baron Corbin inside the unforgiving steel structure, with Bray entering the fray as the fourth entrance. This was his first crack at the WWE title, believe it or not, his only previous shots at any sort of world title coming in the 2014 Money in the Bank ladder match and in the 2016 Royal Rumble. This Elimination Chamber match was a scorcher and really saved what had been a humdrum pay-per-view, with the six men going all out for close to 40 awesome minutes. After the champ was surprisingly eliminated, it came down to Wyatt and Styles, with the phenomenal one eventually succumbing to Sister Abigail and Bray securing his first major piece of singles gold. His reign didn't last long, ending at the hands of Randy Orton at WrestleMania 33 just 6 weeks later, but the moment he won the title was still one of his best. Number 1, the Wyatt family debuts. The first time we saw Wyndham Rotunda on WWE television, he was a million miles removed from the iconic character he would morph into. It took a couple of years in NXT for him to transform from Husky Harris, game show hopeful and member of the New Nexus. While in developmental, Rotunda crafted the Bray Wyatt persona, with he and his family quickly becoming a leading act for the black and gold brand. Like many others before and after them, their fortunes could have easily changed with their call-up, but mercifully, WWE got it right from the get-go. After the vignette treatment helped tease their impending arrival, the Wyatt family surfaced on the July 8, 2013 episode of Raw. Bray cut one of his customarily creepy promos from a rocking chair, which was played on the big screen before he, Harper, and Rowan came out and attacked Kane. Bray himself didn't do anything physical to the Big Red Machine, letting his larger enforcers do the damage while he observed approvingly. Nonetheless, it was a seriously powerful first main roster appearance for a character who, in the almost decade since, has experienced a lot of creative up and downs, yet retains his special aura.